I'm Pastor Jeremy Combs, and we're once again in the book of Deuteronomy looking at the doctrine of the divine. This is our second week. Last week, if you missed it, look back on our YouTube or Facebook and you can pick up chapter 1. We covered 46 verses in 2 lessons. I thought for me that was tremendous. And Deuteronomy is a little bit different of a book. Every book you treat a little different. Sometimes, like Ephesians, we went through a little bit slower. This one with Deuteronomy, we pick up the pace a little bit. And sometimes when it gets into these narratives, it's easier to pick up larger chunks. And so Moses, remember, is giving a speech to the nation of Israel. He's preparing to die. He's not going to be able to go into the promised land. And so these are important speeches. Deuteronomy, remember, means second law. And this is the second time. What do you do? What do you emphasize? I hope you never have to face this, although all of us will one day. But when you're going to die, you think about folks that linger. They don't, just drop dead or die in their sleep. And you say, what can I say in my last breath? Well, I would take a page from Moses here in Deuteronomy and emphasize the word of God. Now, you may not be able to wax eloquent for 34 chapters. The first speech, I think it's 3 or 4 speeches that this book is divided up into. First one goes all the way through mid to late chapter 4. So it's a lengthier speech, but he goes back and he shares with them initially the history of Israel. Now, chapter 1 reminds us that life is all about decisions we make. Who we are, where we end up, depends on largely the decisions we make. That's a good thing, and also the bad ones. We make good decisions, and that will get us down the road to where we need to be and in the right place. Sometimes, unfortunately, and it will happen, we're sinners, you make bad or poor choices, and those have tremendous ramifications as well. Both need to be remembered, but neither one should we remain or dwell there. Can't leave it there. It's important to remember failures, as in chapter 1, where they had no faith to go in, and when God said go, they wouldn't go. When he said no, they went on in, and they were soundly beaten back. We need to remember that because it was a lapse of faith, and it was a great reminder that if we obey God, God is going to fight for us. If we disobey God, he's going to fight against us. It's also a common theme throughout the Bible, but particularly in the Pentateuch, first 5 books of the Bible, and especially here in the book of Deuteronomy. Now, chapter 2, we get into kind of some good times, and those are the things we love. And sometimes, though, we can't live there. You can't live and dwell and, 20 years ago I did this, 10 years ago. And those are great moments. You ought to look back and praise God, and I'm thankful for that. But you need to remember, what are we doing today? So Moses is going to rehearse with Israel their history. Chapter 1 is a lot about the bad decision, defeats. Got to remember them. Don't remain there. Chapter 2 now is about good decisions. And again, we remember them, but again, don't remain there. You get the big head, and you can dwell in past victory. You've got to move on and get new ones. Well, the key to both chapters would be this: obedience. And it's always the key to the Christian life. Well, that's my lengthier introduction. And so without further ado, let's go to chapter 2 of Deuteronomy and verse 1. Then we turned and took our journey into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea, as the Lord spake unto me, and we compassed Mount Seir many days. Notice, even when we misstep and God has to chasten us, even during those difficult times, God is leading. G. Campbell Morgan said it this way: he leads us by no unnecessary pathways. There are a meaning and there's a value in every stretch of the road, however rough or torturous it may be. We learn lessons in the region of Mount Seir, okay, where we're at here, which can be learned nowhere else. We discover God in the country of Moab. We'll get to them in a little bit. As we could in no other regions. Let us then ever rejoice in his commandments, however much they disturb us. Nobody wanted to go out on this 38-and-a-half-year journey, but it was what God said, and you're going to see that when God goes with you, even a terrible journey can end up being a good journey. And so they go to Mount Seir, and someone posed a question last week on our YouTube channel about the square coverage of the desert, and how could they be just wandering around in this region? Well, the idea is I can't get the square mileage. Maybe I probably should have Googled that, but it doesn't make in much of a difference, because here's the idea. We think of wandering in the wilderness like every day you get up and you walk, every day you get up and walk. They would make encampments sometimes for months to years. And so they'd journey to a place, they'd stop. And then, of course, they'd have to hunt, they'd have to do this, they'd have to do that. Sometimes they were receiving lessons from God. So wandering is not a complete, we're walking all the time. And so wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Verse 2, and the Lord spake unto me, saying, You've compassed this mountain long enough. Turn you northward. Well, being near that mountain, there probably were some advantages, and we sometimes just get content to stay where we are. God says we're going to move you on. Don't ever worry when God moves you on, even though you're leaving a comfortable place. And command thou the people, saying, Ye are to pass through the coast of your brethren, the children of Esau, which dwell in Seir, and they shall be afraid of you. Take you good heed unto yourselves, therefore, meddle not with them. For I will not give you of their land, no, not so much as a foot breadth, because I've given Mount Seir unto Esau for a possession. So God always keeps his word, even for those who are not worthy for it to be kept. In fact, let's be honest, folks, isn't that all of us? We don't deserve God's promises, but boy, is he faithful to them. And even an old scoundrel like Esau, who really doesn't have a whole lot of spiritual depth to him, God said, This is his land. He is a descendant of Abraham, and I'm going to honor him. And so, as you go through his land, we're not going to fight, we're not going to destroy, we're not going to take his land. You're going to go around, and if you do need to stop, you're going to see in just a minute, you're going to reimburse him for whatever you might take. Ye shall buy meat of them for money, that ye may eat, and ye shall also buy water of them for money, that ye may drink. For the Lord thy God hath blessed thee in all the works of thy hands. He knoweth thy walking through this great wilderness, these 40 years. The Lord thy God hath been with thee. Thou hast lacked nothing. Man, there's some good stuff in that verse. First, we look at Esau, and there would have been animosity. There's greater animosity as you get into the minor prophets. And so the relationships obviously deteriorated more. But at this moment, some people believe Israel just went in and conquered nation, just a big land grab. No, they took what God had given them, and what God ordered them to take, they took. What God ordered them not to take, they didn't take, for the most part. And where they disobeyed that, they paid the price. And so we know that they tried to not have any conflict with Esau and his descendants. That doesn't work out according to Numbers chapter 21. But God says, don't take advantage of these people. Israel would have been much bigger, we assume, than Esau's descendants, the Edomites. And but even with the numbers, even with the advantage, God says, you give them what is rightfully theirs. You pay for the food, you pay for the water. But I love these last verses. As he knoweth thy walking through the great wilderness, these 40 years the Lord thy God's been with thee, and thou hast lacked nothing. Reminds me of missionary John Stram on China, 1934, who was martyred, he and his wife Betty. He said this, he said, Take away everything I have. Oh man, I love this statement. But do not take away, I get all choked up thinking about it, the sweetness of walking and talking with the King of Glory. Oh, we hold on to things that really just don't matter in life. And we get so angry at God when the car breaks down. We get so angry at God when the house isn't where we want it to be. And we forget the sweetness of just having the presence of God. Wow, that is good. Getting a little teary-eyed here, so I'm going to have to move on. But aren't you glad he never leaves us nor forsakes us? He could have very well said, Hey, Israel, you won't live by faith. You are going to abandon me. I'm going to abandon you, but not our God. Boy, is he merciful. And when we passed by from our brethren, the children of Esau, which dwelt in Seir, through the way of the plain from Elith and from Ezine, Gabet, we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab. So they're going to come to another descendant of Abraham, this through Lot. And the Lord said unto me, Distress not the Moabites, neither contend with them in battle. For I will not give thee of their land for a possession, because I have given Ar unto the children of Lot for a possession. So he says there's something else. They were born in iniquity, the Moabites, the Ammonites, but they were descendants, and God honored Abraham by honoring even kind of the rascallion Lot. And so he says, you're not going to go in there and remove them from their land. We find that some house is going to need to be cleaned throughout the years with the Moabites, but there's going to be some great additions to Israel through the Moabites. We think of especially Ruth, the Moabitess. And the Ammons dwelt therein in times. This is kind of a parenthesis, 10 and 13. A people great and many, tall as the Anakims, and they were accounted as giants as the Anakims, but the Moabites called them Emims. And the Horims also dwelt in Seir before times, but the children of Esau succeeded them when they had destroyed them from before them and dwelt in their steads, as Israel did unto the land of his possession, whom the Lord gave unto them. So how did the Moabites, how did the Edomites come to their possessions? They warded out, they conquered. And thus, we're a reminder to Israel, this is exactly what you're going to have to do as well when you get to your land. Now rise up, said I, and get you over the brook Zered. This is a kind of a boundary between the Moabites and the Edomites, and we went over the brook Zered. And the space in which we came from Kadesh Barnea until we would come over the brook Zered was 38 years, until all the generations of the men of war were wasted out from among the host, as the Lord sware unto them. Remember, part of their consequences was those that said, oh, the giants, and oh, what about our children will be taken? God says, okay, you'll wonder. None of you will enter into and receive the promises, but the giants you're afraid of, we'll take care of them. The children you think will be, kidnapped or killed, they're the ones that are going to inherit the blessing. And God's hand was against Israel, at least the adults and above, because they disobeyed God. For indeed, the hand of the Lord was against them, to destroy them from among the host until they were consumed. Do you want God's hand for you or against you? These are God's people, don't forget. But again, the key is obedience. Obedience, God can be for us. Who can be against us? If we're disobedience, yes, God's very hand can be against us. Yes, he's with us, he's journeying, but that doesn't mean that he won't lay or have a firm hand upon us, much like a loving father or mother will do with their children. So it came to pass, when all the men of war were consumed and dead from among the people, that the Lord spake unto me, this would be Moses, saying, thou art to pass over through Ar, the coast of Moab, this day. When thou comest nigh over against the children of Ammon, distress them not. Another group here, the Ammonites, born again at the same time as the Moabites, nor meddle with them, for I will not give thee of the land of the children of Ammon any possession, because I've given unto the children of, and here we go, Lot, for a possession. That also was accounted a land of giants. Giants dwelt therein in old times, and the Ammonites called them, here's a great word for you, the Zamazimans. Zamazimans. Well, it's almost like a cartoon word, but that's the idea of they were giant, fearful ones. A great people, great and many, and they were tall as the Anakims, but the Lord destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead. See, even the ungodly can have victory over giants, but and it's amazing. You would think they could even take a page from the world, but they don't, because greater is he that's in you than he that is in the world. But it's amazing how lack of faith can hinder us so badly, as he did to the children of Esau, which dwelt in Seir, which he destroyed the Horims from before them, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead, even unto this day. God even helped Esau. He helped those descendants with their battles. And the Avims, which dwelt in Hazareim, even unto Azab, and the Caphorims, if I'm saying that right, which came forth out of Caphor, destroyed them and dwelt in their stead. By the way, remember, not a lot of people know exactly how to say that. The idea here is, though, that God helps the godly, and then in some cases, even his hand is moving the ungodly, but it's all for his glory and for our good. Never forget that. Rise up and take your journey and pass over the river Arn, and behold, I have given into thine hand Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon. His land, began to possess it and contend with him in battle. So we're going to stop there. In fact, I meant to stop at 23, but we get a preview of these great victories. There was times God said, don't fight, not now, don't take possession. Finally, God's going to say there's a time to fight, though, and Sihon king, but it's God that is going to do the fighting for him. So much to unpack here in Deuteronomy 2, 1 through 23. But again, our decisions today, good or bad, will affect where we are and what we'll be doing tomorrow. Hey, God bless you. We'll see you next time.